I'd like to call the September 12th, 2022 Board of Commissioners work session to order. As always, we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and tonight our Township Manager, Sandra Zidell, will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Sandra. Deanna, will you do the roll call?
Denise Hall, President.
Here.
Catherine Carter, Vice President.
Here.
Liz McNaney, Commissioner.
Here.
Martha Similera, Commissioner. Here. Ruth Damsker, Commissioner.
Here.
Sandra Zidell, Township Manager.
Here.
Megan Weaver, Assistant Township Manager.
Here.
Lauren Gallagher, Township Solicitor.
Here.
Isaac Kessler, Township Engineer.
Here.
David Duffy, Chief of Police. Eve Van Rieker, Zoning Officer.
Here.
It is noted that Nathan Crittenden, Finance Director, is absent.
Thanks, Deanna. Lauren, were there any executive sessions?
There were. The board met in executive session on September 8th to discuss matters of potential litigation and earlier this evening to discuss matters of personnel.
Thank you. Oops, forgot to mention, I skipped number 4, that we will be recognizing John McGuire at our September business meeting. Next, we have the public comments. Thank you for respecting the 5-minute rule and practicing decorum. Our goal is to always give you the most complete and correct answers to your questions from our staff who are experts in each of their areas. For that reason, we have included a space for your name and email address in the registry if we need to reach out to you during the week with a full answer to your questions. At our last business meeting on August 16th, Fred Hankin asked, do we have any distressed social or economic census tracts in Upper Gwynedd Township? Sandra responded with the following email. Hi, Fred. I hope you're doing well. I wanted to follow up on the questions you asked at last week's public meeting. You had asked the following. Do we have any distressed social or economic census tracts in Upper Gwynedd Township? I wasn't sure what metric is used to call a census tract distressed socially or economically. I did a quick Google search and was able to find opportunity zones designated by DCED on this link. Upper Gwynedd Township has no opportunity zones within our borders. And then she provided a link to give some more information on that. There was also this info on opportunity zones, and that went into greater detail on exactly what opportunity zones are, which was really interesting. I am sharing this info not to say that Upper Gwynedd Township has taken any of the steps described to build an opportunity zone. We haven't. I just wanted to share the info I have found. If you have any more specificity about your questions regarding socially or economically distressed census tracts, please let me know and I would be happy to try to answer your questions further. You had also asked for the Home at Last race route, which I have attached. It is the first route in the handout. Thanks, Sandra. We had some residents who were concerned that if we answered any question offline, so to speak, then the residents who wanted to hear the answer publicly would be left out. So we will continue to share any answers to questions that were posed publicly but were answered privately at the following public meeting. First up this evening for public comments is Carl Smith of 815 McIntosh Way.
Hello, Carl Smith, 815 McIntosh Way. This past Sunday, there was an article in the Lansdale Reporter, and the title was called Tackling the County Housing Crisis Before and After the Storm. This was authored by 2 of our county commissioners in Montgomery County, Chairwoman Valerie Arcouche and Vice Chair Ken Lawrence. In it, they talk about a number of things, but primarily it's focused on what they consider a lack of affordable housing here in the county. And their remedy to this so-called issue is going to be handled through the County Recovery Office. This office apparently has control over $32.4 million, and it's going to be directed into priorities that they consider appropriate. They listed 3 of them. 3 of them, the first one is 325 new affordable housing units will be created. You want to create 2 new temporary housing facilities, and the other one is more ambiguous, the last one. They want to support future affordable housing. I guess that means whatever money's left over and whatever opportunities present themselves down the road. later in the article, it took a little more dark tone, if you will, to me. I mean, it was a little more almost like a reprimand. It said, at least I perceived it that way. It says it's a countywide problem, and it's going to take a countywide approach. So they said all 62 municipalities are going to, quote, each need to do their fair share to help the residents in need. Every time I hear that term, fair share, it usually comes from a left-leaning politician, and it doesn't bode well for those who are trying to make the country work, we the people. So that's a big red flag to me. It also talks about they're not going to allocate any funding to residential developments that don't have the affordability component as part of the project. And if developers want public funding, they must offer a public benefit. So no surprise, there's going to be strings attached to the money. That's normal. That's something we should all keep in mind every time we're talking about getting money from government agencies. So after and then the final piece that really is most relevant to all of us in this room. It says, however, the county does not control local zoning, even on county-owned land. The county is always ready to fund developments that include affordable housing and other supportive housing, and we do. We just need the leadership and compassion of our municipal partners, which I assume are you folks, developers, and the residents in the area to make this all happen. So the question, there's many questions, but the primary question as I read all this is the cornerstone at Pembroke Station this board's attempt to show leadership, I quote, leadership and compassion, as defined by our Cush and Lawrence? It seems to me that it is. So that's my question to the board. And we've got a checkered past in terms of whether we get answers or not. So I'll leave it up to you whether or not you want to answer that. Apparently, no.
Thank you, Carl. Next up is Linda Smith of 815 McIntosh Way.
Hello, Linda Smith, 815 McIntosh Way. So the article that my husband was referring to by Valerie Arkush and Ken Lawrence, Tackling the County Housing Crisis Before and After the Storm, references that Hurricane Ida and COVID-19 are as being culprits that have affected the availability for the affordable housing. So my question is, what impact did Ida and COVID have on Upper Gwynedd when it comes to the housing? And as he mentioned, is Cornerstone at Pembroke Station a development, an effort to address or this alleged need? So I'm curious because I know that Ida especially had a lot of damage down in the Fort Washington area. That's very high-end housing. I don't think they're going to be putting affordable housing down there, but I'm not aware of anything that happened here in Upper Gwynedd where we would have to comply with where we'd have to go with the county with their idea, and COVID the same. I don't know how that it would have affected us. So, that's my question is, did it happen in our township, and where did it happen? Where is this crisis here in Upper Gwynedd? Because if the county is telling us it happened in 62 municipalities, we're one of 62, and I don't believe that we need to comply with that. And obviously we don't have to because the county isn't making us do that. But we've already made the accommodations for the affordable housing because we've complied with the Fair Housing Act. So as far as our what we need to do, and when it comes to this development in Pembroke, that is, I'm viewing that as something that the county is pushing us to do as a township. And I'm against it, and I've talked to other people, and we're not for this change in our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Next up is Mark Connolly, 11 Kearney Drive.
Hi, Mark Connolly, 11 Kearney Drive. So first, I just want to say I am excited to see the Dickerson Road drainage improvement project still moving forward. And I believe that the storm that was the big flood, I believe that was Ida, but unfortunately we've had so many major floods over the past couple of years that they kind of just run together.
It was both Ida and, I always say it wrong. Isaias, I don't know how to say it. Isaias, yeah, yeah.
So I'm happy to see that move forward. Are they going to post, I guess, the road if there's going to be road closures?
They will, yes. Right now, it's a lead time for the materials, and then when they're kind of start construction, they'll have posting.
Okay, great. And the other thing I want to mention, this might be a little bit premature, but I know on the agenda there's some items with regard to the Gazette, which I've been seeing on Facebook, and I think I just recently subscribed a couple weeks ago. I think it's been helpful. I think it shows the board's commitment to transparency, and instead of us just getting things once a quarter or semi-annually, we're getting things now pretty much every week. So I think that's helpful because there's always a lot going on in the township. And, if you're not religiously watching Facebook, sometimes it's really easy, or, Twitter, or, one of those other media, it's really easy to miss. So I'm definitely in favor of that because I definitely think, like I said, that shows the board's commitment to transparency. Thank you.
Mark. Next up, we have Fred Hankin of 802 Clover Drive.
Hi, good evening. Fred Hankin, 802 Clover Drive. Is there a timeline that you're looking at for the Walters Group proposal to come in front of the Planning Commission?
Fred, you may have noticed, or maybe not. Megan, could you?
I did, but
Okay.
and I was going to wait for that.
Okay,
but
no, it's okay. We can talk about it
You,
now.
you want to
So-
wait? I mean, I'm okay with
Well, I'll just answer your question because I track the questions and I like to just answer them if I can. So the application has been put on hold by the developer.
Okay.
So there's no plan at this time for it to move forward. At such time that it's no longer on hold, we'll definitely be posting it publicly.
And I was
Just the same as we did when they first applied.
right. And I did see that, and I was not going to ask the question, but I figured I'd ask anyway.
Okay,
that way
sure,
it would-
yeah. Get it
And-
out there.
and a question just came to my mind now that I actually wasn't prepared for, was that Carl Smith asked a question and didn't get an answer again. So anyone have an answer to his question? I don't have the wording specifically, but he asked a question regarding what the county's trying to do in our townships, and it's just part of what we're trying to do in this township to follow that lead. We get blank stares, so thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Was there anyone else who would like to make a comment who has not filled out the form? No? Okay. Well, on that note, then I am going to turn it over to Sandra Zadell.
Thank you, President Hull. Okay, I'm going to give a little update on a few grants and awards that we've recently received that I wanted to tell everyone about. You may have seen it on our social media. We received a $47,900 grant for a new comprehensive park and open space plan. This has been a goal of Sarah, our Park and Rec Director, for a few years to update those plans. And the point of that plan will be to look at, as we all know, Parkside Place is very heavily utilized. At any moment we look outside, there's always people there, even sometimes in inclement weather. And we want to look at all of the parks and make sure we spread the amenities that we have throughout the township and just make a future vision for those parks. So we've received that funding from DCNR, which is the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. We also recently won an award for the Wissahickon Headwaters project that we did in partnership with PICO, Wissahickon Trails, and Merck for the stream bank restoration right here, pointing like this because you can see it if you go for a walk back behind us. It's an achievement award of the Water Resources Association of the Delaware River Basin. So that's exciting. I'll be going to that award ceremony next week and look forward to receiving that award with our partners. Wissahickon Trails really led the way on that, and they deserve most of the credit there. And lastly, I always love the opportunity, and Isaac can help me if I forget something, to talk about where we are in our capital projects. Last year at budget time, if you were following our budget presentations, I talked a lot about how many capital projects we had planned for this year. So I'd like to go over some of the ones that are completed, just so that the public knows that we are completing the projects we say we're going to complete, and we have a few in the pipeline. So probably the most
heavily awaited was the Jacks Lane cleanup project. That project has been complete, and our residents that live near there are very thrilled about that. There's additional work that we're going to look to do possibly in that area as MS4 work, but it was basically an overgrown open space area that we needed to get rid of, unfortunately, all the dead ash trees. We're also working diligently on the Haynes Run project engineering. We've received 3 grants for that project, and we continue to work through the project, and you'll see it continue in our budget for next year. Bless you. We installed new welcome signs throughout the township. The residents may have noticed if you're traveling, they're nice and new and blue, and they look really nice. And we completed the Moyer Boulevard spray lining project and the Summit Town Pike Bridge landscaping. So at the Summit Town Pike Bridge, as you go that way, our workers always had to sort of climb those steep banks to weed whack and take care of that. And it's been on our budget for about 5 years. We finally completed the project this year because we had to get permission from SEPTA, which is a difficult job, which Isaac helped us with. And so now there's more sustainable landscaping there, so our workers will be in a safer position. So those are that's a snippet of some of the projects we've done this year. Exciting projects just around the corner, the Dickerson Road drainage project to help alleviate flooding in that area, as well as the Newport Basin restoration project. So we have a ton of stormwater projects happening. Ida did affect Upper Gwynedd Township. We had several homeowners who had flooded homes, as well as any big storm does. I don't know, we were not as heavily affected as other communities, obviously, but we did have some residents affected. So we are working also on engineering for a project in the Meadowbrook neighborhood. It's generally the older sections of the township that didn't have stormwater infrastructure installed to start. We're having problems now, or the infrastructure that was installed 30 years ago starts failing. So did I hit all the big ones?
Yes.
I think so. Okay. So that is my manager's report. Does anyone have any questions?
Did you want to say something about the tax department?
I can at the next meeting when I'll have a better report. Nate was out today and I wanted to have a report.
Because we were talking about it earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Any questions from the public? Nope. Okay, we will move on. Dan, you're up.
Members of the board, 4 items. One is a holdover. It's been on the agenda now for a number of months. 1500 Pembroke Parkway. It's the Walters Group that was tangentially referred to earlier. It's at the request of the applicant on hold. I have no more information than they've asked us to not to proceed at this time. 3 new applications, zoning hearing board appeals to be heard this month, September 27th. The first is an application for a use variance at Moyer Boulevard and West Point Pike. Pennington, I think is, I did not include it, but Pennington Properties. So they purchased 2.37 acres, which is zoned LI, limited industrial, undersized, difficult to build. It's in the little kind of island between the relocated Moyer Boulevard and the railroad tracks. It's sort of the way I think of it, adjacent to West Point. Their request will be heard. It's a use variance. They've suggested they'd like to propose a residential use for 10, they say duplex, really under the code, they're twins, a total of 10 dwelling units. The unit is similar to, if not identical to, Finley Court, which was built 3 or 4 years ago behind Cottage Avenue. Smaller in size as to the community. Are there questions on that one? That one, really all 3 would be items that you could consider sending the solicitor to appear before the board to report, take a position. I don't know whether you'll do that tonight or whether you'll have a chance to do that later. Anyway, so that's new. You haven't seen that one before. Any thoughts on that one before I proceed? Next is kind of a straightforward side yard variance, Clearview Road residential addition. These are lots that were built, if not non-conforming at a time where the lot width is less than now required. So virtually anything that's added to the side of the house, in many instances, this being one, requires a dimensional variance for a one-story side yard variance addition for residential use. 1610 Clearview Road. Any questions about that one? Pretty straightforward. Fairly typical, yes.
You had a question in the back for.
Oh, sorry.
You had
We
his
had a
hand
hand
up.
up? Go ahead. Do you want me to take these now?
Sure. You can, if you could come to the microphone and state your name and address, please.
William Jackson, 664 Park Road. On the Moyer Boulevard, West Point Pike property, it's my general understanding that one of the primary possible routes of the power line trail.
I have your question. I know what you're going to ask.
Yeah,
You're going to be so excited with my
so-
answer. I can't
well,
wait to tell you.
Okay, so I don't even know if I need to go to the zoning meeting, but I just want to make sure that if this does get approved, that right away be part of the approval.
I'm ready for you.
Yeah,
I know
okay.
you love the trails. It
Yeah.
is on the plan.
Okay, and then also, again, I don't know how this is possible or not, but if I was a homeowner, can we make it part of the requirements when they notify people who are going to buy those houses that the trail is expected to come through there? So we won't run into the problem where someone says, well, I didn't know that the trail was going to be coming through there and opposed.
Yes, actually, in that neighborhood, that's a great point. But also, I think when we did Finley Court, we asked that they did a notification for the train because there's obviously like a loud train track
Sure.
right behind there too. So those are typically things we ask developers to do and require them to have property owners sign at closing so that we see that they're notified of things that we perceive could be a future challenge.
Great, thank you.
I'm glad to see you always here supporting the trails.
And for those of you, anytime a plan comes in, neighbors are notified, and the plan itself, the record plan, is if not made a part of the sales transaction with an individual lot owner, anytime that we as staff or the board feels that there should be a disclosure, we'll request that that happen during the review process. We actually talked about that. It'll be both on the plan and disclosed to a prospective buyer. Okay. Last, 593 DeKalb, that's the Wawa down on the edge of the township next to Lower Gwynedd and Montgomery Township. Variances to permit up to 4 EV electric vehicle chargers. You might remember a year or so ago, we had a conditional use to permit up to eight were built Tesla EV vehicle chargers. That was a conditional use because we viewed it to be a primary use because the chargers that were constructed, Lauren, reading all of her mail, asked me about that. So because it was a primary use, second primary use only for Tesla, I viewed it as a primary use on a C district that requires your permission, which you granted for the construction of those EV chargers. They're up, they're open, and they're being used in front of the Wawa. This application differs in that it's an application on behalf of Wawa to construct chargers that would be universal in nature. That is, generally speaking, NA, electric vehicle. You don't need a fob, you don't need a special apparatus to connect into the electric charger. Because of that, I'm viewing it as an accessory use. So it's not a principal use. Because it's accessory, it triggers that you can't have an accessory use in the front yard of a commercial district. So they're going to the zoning hearing board in a couple weeks for that decision. That is it appropriate to have those accessory structures in the front yard at the Wawa site? Questions on that one?
You're only asking for 4.
Up to 4. So they want the ability to build 3 or 4. I might be, I'm not an engineer, it might be a decision made at the time based on electrical or electricity, availability, charging availability. Up to 4, 3 or 4. Okay, questions? No? Thank you.
Thanks, Van. Isaac, you're up next.
Thanks, Andrew. Our monthly report is attached for the ongoing projects in the township as we look at it this month. A few developments are still in construction, Wheatley Walk, Roosevelt Court, a few of the ones we've seen a few months back are moving along well. Two items we wanted to just highlight for this month's meeting. One is the road program, which is reaching the last stages of the work. The road paving has been completed, if you've noticed around the township. We're pleased with the paving that was done by the contractor JDM. With that, there's a few areas for some pavement markings that are to be completed, and that's expected within the next few days here. They need dry roads to do that, so they're just kind of dancing around the weather. And then also the ramps on Broad Street are still to be done. That's the last leg of 88 ramps that are part of this contract. So they completed all the ones around the school areas that were in the contract, and they have Broad Street ramps to be completed with the anticipation that that area would be paved with next year's program. The other item we wanted to highlight and mentioned a bit earlier is Dickerson Road Drainage Improvement Project. As mentioned, the kind of delay to get going is due to lead time with materials, which is the case with a lot of construction projects these days. But the contractor does anticipate he'll have what they need going into October. So we're looking forward to that project getting going in early to mid-October, and they'll work through that fairly rapidly. We expect once they have all their materials lined up and ready to go. Be happy to answer any questions.
I don't see any questions. So I will move on to staff reports. I'd like to put those for consideration of the consent agenda, and as well as the meeting minutes from the items 11 and 12. I'd like to make an announcement that the budget work session dates have been set for October 13th at 1 and October 24th at 1 p.m. Those are open to the public and held in this meeting room. Item 14 is approval of the extension of the Gailey Murray contract for the Gazette service until such time the board or staff recommends cessation of the contract. So if you recall, when you first considered the weekly news, you guys wanted to do a bit of a pilot program and see how successful it's been. So I made some notes in my memo to you about the success of the Gazette. It's been pretty amazing. We get email responses from residents all the time to the Gazette, something they read. We've increased subscribers by about 6% in 6 months, which is also good news. And we have really good open averages. These are things that our PR firm has told me are tracked, and we get about a 50% open rate, which is really good for something that we all get tons of, I'm a mom, I get emails from the school. There's a lot that you have to open in your inbox, so it's good that 50% of the time people are opening our emails. And it would be my recommendation that we continue this service. It's been a great service to the residents. So that's what I'm looking for you to vote on at the next meeting. Are there any questions? Any questions? Come on up.
Fred Incunator, 2 Clover Drive. We had a conversation a couple meetings ago regarding the publication or the announcement to the residents regarding the comprehensive plan. And I talked about, maybe sending something out to the residents, and the comment back was it would have been too expensive. But now we're looking for an extension of $20,000. Is that my understanding?
Well, that's the next item, but yes.
Yeah, okay. I thought I was.
You're leading me into the
So
next item, but yeah, that's
I'm
fine.
hearing mixed things here. I'm hearing we have a comprehensive plan that wasn't supposed to be binding, but clearly you're using it as a tool to retool this township. But on the other hand, when this Gazette serves your purposes, it's just go ahead and spend some more. So
Well, Fred, I do have to point out that it was a different board that was sitting up here when the comp plan survey was distributed. That was a different board than this board, so they might make different decisions.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hello, thank you. David Kenyon, 1000 South Broad Street. This Murray Company, is this the same company you had hired about a year ago to, I guess, check the pulse of the community about Mr. Martin's property and what you wanted to do with it? Is that the same one? So, as far as I remember, and in newspaper reports and all that, this board had made statements that you were not going to spend any more taxpayer money on the acquisition or trying to acquire Mr. Martin's property which I live on. A whole big thing was caused about, last year and all that. So you want to approve another 20,000. So the first one was 30,000. So you want to try to improve another 20,000. So that's $50,000 of taxpayer money.
Sorry, Mr. Kenyon, I have to correct you. It's only, if there's two separate parts of the contract with Gailey Murray. 10,000 was for the Gazette. So that's totally separate. That doesn't really have anything to do with it. And the original other 10,000 was for the time that's passed. It was only 10,000. It wasn't 10,000 per month or something like that. It was just 10,000.
I understand that, but about a year ago, or whenever you first got this company, it was expressly for, as far as I know, to get the pulse of the community about the park over there at Mr. Martin's property. Is that true?
I wouldn't say that that was true, that it was for the purpose of PR for the township, for whatever initiatives.
Okay, so already, I thought I read in the paper it was specifically mainly towards that, but I could be wrong. So was the first contract $30,000?
No, the first contract was 10,000 for the Gazette and 10,000, not to exceed another 10,000
Okay.
for other general PR needs. Approximately 8,000 of that was spent on a resident survey.
So is this company contacting residents by phone or by mail with a survey?
There was a phone survey that was completed, and the results of that will be shared publicly in the next couple of months.
What are the questions on that survey?
Those would be shared when we share it
Is
publicly.
the
I don't
survey
have
still
them.
going on now?
No, it's closed.
And why is that?
It was a statistically significant survey that had a certain amount of people that needed to be contacted, and that's been exhausted.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So the public asked a few questions about the next item, which is item 15. So if the board had any other questions about that portion, I just want to be clear. The first not to exceed was 10. The second would be another 10 for a total of 20,000 for Gailey Murray services.
So it's an additional 10,
It's an additional 10. Yeah, that's
not to exceed.
not to exceed another 10. Yes.
Maybe I'm confused. So you did telephone surveys, is that correct? To get you, and then you got a certain amount, I understand, you get a certain amount, they say, hey, we hit our target and so forth. Is that correct? I don't know if anyone in this room got a telephone call. I know I did, so I'm just.
Well,
So-
it was a random polling, so we don't say like, hey, call.
So
this
that
person.
cost was how much for that telephone survey?
I don't know the exact amount. I'm
Okay,
not going to say.
I'm
but in
going
my
back to the
memo, I
same
say it
question
costs
I
about
asked
$8,000.
before. Wouldn't it have been easier just to stick a stamp on an envelope and mail in your response, and then you'd have a lot higher response rate than you would just randomly calling people? I know I don't answer phone calls unless I know who the people are.
Yeah, Fred,
I get
actually, it
political
wouldn't have
call-
been. It actually,
sorry?
it wouldn't have been. We did some research into figuring out what would be the most efficient way to do it. It wouldn't have been. But we are going to talk about it, and we are going to share all the information with you in the upcoming months. You will know everything you would like to know about it, and we will answer all your questions then.
Okay, I just find it curious that I don't know anyone that got that phone call, so.
Okay. Thank you, Fred.
And I don't know what the statistical number is that you have to reach before, but.
You will know when we do the public presentation about
Thanks,
it.
Thank you.
Linda Smith, 815. So I'm just confused about why the survey went out. Are we asking the people in the community, do you think that the township should be acquiring land from a private owner? And is that so we're asking basically the community if what you've decided to do by condemning the property, if they agree with it. Is that the question?
Linda, we
Yeah.
are going to share the information about the survey in the next few months.
I don't need the information. I just wanted to know the
That's
purpose.
all included. That's all part of it.
Well, what's
It's
the
all part of
purpose
it.
of the survey?
We'll be sharing that with you in the next few months, okay?
Okay, I'm not asking for the results. I just don't understand the purpose of it.
We'll talk about it in the next couple months. Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you. Go ahead, Sandra.
Okay, so anyway, those two items will be voted on next week at your board meeting, and they will not be on the consent agenda. We had great success on municipal bid the last couple of months with sales of old equipment from the Park and Rec Department. And now we're going to try it again with the sale of our recently replaced phone system. So we have a way better phone system now at a way cheaper price. But there's someone out there that probably would love our old phone system. So that's going to be listed with the board's permission on municipal bid after you vote on that item on next week. Any questions? Just want to click through. So the MMO is our next topic, and I'm just going to give a brief overview. So each year, the Board of Commissioners is required to commit the minimum municipal obligation. That's the minimum amount that we need to commit to funding our police pension plan and our non-uniform pension plan. The spreadsheet used for the calculations utilizes assumptions that our pension board decides on and basically gives us a calculation inclusive of the money we get from the state to help offset those costs. So the MMO for 2023 is expected, it's calculated on my, my memo to be less. Actually, it's a miracle. That hardly happens. And I don't know if it'll happen the next valuation, but the valuation is based on the 2 years prior to the valuation date. So the last valuation, the one we're currently using, was based off of 2020 and 2021 earnings, which we know those were great years, at least for our police pension plan. So that is why our MMO is going down. It's not that we're funding less, it's that our investments, we're funding a larger portion of the success there. And so the change was about $63,000 reduction. In fact, we made our pension actuarial assumptions more conservative. So which was great considering what happened next. If you go forward from 2021, there's some losses this year with the stock market and with our investments. We decided to have a more conservative approach and lower the assumed interest rate. So that means we are assuming that we're going to bring in less from our investments. So that's good news for the future. So does anyone have any questions about the MMO? It will require a vote by the board to accept it at your next meeting. Any questions? No. Okay. Next up is a decision item. So Commissioner Hull, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to suspend employee number EMP 00014 for a period of 5 days without pay?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, a nice item we have on the agenda next is the approval to begin the promotion process for sergeant. If you were at our last few meetings, you know we've begun a process to hire a officer. We have a lot of sergeants in the pipeline looking to possibly retire in the next few years. So we'd like to start the sergeant's promotional exam, as we have one sergeant who we expect to be out between January or April of next year. So it takes a lot of time to prepare for these tests and make sure that we get the list. But the good news is that the list for this test will last us through some period of time where we'll be able to utilize it for future promotions as well. Are there any questions? Okay. Another fun item is Resolution 2622, recognizing the 9th through the 15th of October as Fire Prevention Week. I think this is pretty self-explanatory, but if anyone has any questions, just interrupt me. I think actually, I don't want to put that on consent. Okay. Items 21 and 22, I would ask the board to put on the consent agenda for next week, as well as number 23 and number 24. So sorry, Commissioner Damsker, I'm asking for your whole section to go onto the consent agenda, but really it's, yeah, it's some just regular work. So Merck is looking for waiver requests for extending operating hours, which is a very normal occurrence around here. And then we have some escrow releases for developers that have done work. Any questions? Oh, come on up, Carl.
Carl Smith. question not on the list, but the property used to be the Sumney Tavern on the corner of West Point Pike and Sumney Town Pike. Can you give us an update on what's going on with that?
I wish we had a good one because I think I speak for everybody here. We strongly dislike that fence that's been up there for years. We all do. We can agree on that.
Yes.
Unfortunately, because it is in compliance with everything that all of our codes, there's nothing we can do. If we see something, if Van or Dan sees something, they can contact the owner, but it's private property.
Oh, I understand.
And
I'm
they're
not
fi-
worried about
yeah.
the site necessarily. I'm just trying to figure out what's in mind for the plot.
We don't have any development proposals for that area right now.
Yeah,
So it's just in limbo?
yeah, and it sucks, doesn't it?
Okay, Commissioner Hull, we have another action item that's in Commissioner McNaney's section for item number 25.
Did you want to tell us anything about it, Sandra?
It's just, again, more of the typical sort of thing that we do. It's an encroachment agreement. That's hard to get out. Encroachment agreement for 840 Clover Drive. It's been reviewed by Public Works and Van. Do you have anything to add?
Just for a fence.
No? Yeah.
Okay, great. Do we have a motion to ratify the storm sewer encroachment agreement for 840 Clover Drive?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments? Oh, sorry. I missed it. Sorry, Fred. Come on up.
I live on Clover Drive and I'm fully aware of the water that comes pouring down through my development. Somebody came out once and had a great conversation about, is that to ease that water or what is?
It's just one of your neighbors, the person living at this property is looking to install a fence. And that fence will go across an easement that we
It's
have.
not the fence that's already up there that they put in. There's a fence that someone just put in there already.
I don't know.
It's
They've
a
already
new
done it.
fence or it's a fence that already has been in existence, but we have discovered the easement there.
Oh, it's an easement.
So
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
a compromise to move the
We're-
fence, but we
Understood.
just need everything to be on paper.
We're
so-
saying if you want to put a fence in our easement, we need to have an agreement that
Understood.
says, like, if we tell
My
you to
my
move it.
concern is the water back there has been like that for 32 years. It's-
Yeah.
Right.
And now
Yeah.
people put pools in, they've done really nice stuff, but the water has gotten increasingly worse. And
Right. Yeah, that's not related to, this is a
Yeah,
personal.
understood. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Item 26 is approval to authorize the hiring of a new Parks and Recreation intern. For those of you who don't know, we've had pretty much an all-star intern for the past several years in Luke Zoll for our Park and Rec department. Fortunately, we're losing him for the future as he moves on to, I'm sure, really amazing things. He's a great kid. And we are looking to hire a new intern, and I think that she will be just as wonderful. So that's something that we'd be asking the board to vote on next week. And we're also on item 27, looking for approval to authorize the purchase of a walk-behind line painter for Public Works. They use this line painter for painting stop bars and crosswalks and things like that, and it was budgeted for in the 2022 budget.
Are we going to put the old line painters on muni bid then?
Yeah, I think we probably will, yes. I will talk to Willard about it, and make sure before the regular meeting. To make
Awesome.
sure, yeah.
Great.
And the last item, I keep joking with Sarah that John Chabal is excited. He's like doing a spring cleaning in the fall of the Park and Rec storage area because we're looking to sell old mowing and bobcat equipment. So that's another one that'll be going up on municipal bid with the board's approval next week. And lastly, authorization to advertise the bid for Dunn soda ash. This is a chemical that we utilize at the plant. So that would require your approval before we go out to bid. And then at the meeting, there will be the open and paid invoices, and that's all we have.
Great. Does anybody on the board have anything else?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
This past weekend was the annual carnival that we have. We were only able to have it Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday. With Sunday's weather, we postponed it. We had a lot of volunteers. A lot of people worked overtime, and I think they deserve me to say their names because it was amazing what they do. They were constantly emptying the trash, picking up the trash, running here, running there. It does take a village to put on a carnival like we had. And the village was led by Sarah Priebus and Leah Getty, our Parks and Rec people. John Chabala, Lori Hamill, who I know was so instrumental in helping the board with our ice cream stand. Mike Morini, Megan Weaver, Sandra Zadell, Colleen Trundowski, Dan Quinby, Patty Ovis, Kelly Luby, Nathan Crittenden, Mike Denny, Cosmo Alversa, I said that right, Willard Troxel, Denny Gerhardt, John McGuire, Howard Quinn, Eric Razor, Roger Smith, Tim Griffins, Mike Freza, Steve Holzecki, I said that one right, Holewski. Then we had camp staff that volunteered, Ann Harrington, Lily Osborne, Alex Gomez, Sammy Blanchard. Our police department, Chief Duffy, Deputy Chief Kiola, Officer Lynch, Officer Morinardi, Officer Culture, Officer Pro, Officer Gill, Officer Fahim, and our new member of our Upper Gwynedd family, Ashton Ponton. We also had officers from Lansdale, and that was Hazel Bundy, and Lower Gwynedd officers, William Henry, Beth Sanborn, and Dennis Cosgrove. We had a Talminson officer helping, and that was Gabe Westerman. And we had a township police officer, Jamie, I'm going to mess it up, so I won't even try it, but she was wonderful. We also have others, our Parks and Rec volunteer board. They were here helping out wherever they were needed. And we also have some people that you don't see or hear about except when there's a call for volunteers. And they just see that we need help and they sign up to help. And they are just amazing as well. And we couldn't have done it without this entire list of people. Of what? Oh, Connor, was he not, did I not say that?
No, well, because I forgot to put him on the list, but he's in charge of making sure we're all safe during the fireworks, our fire
Yes.
marshal, and he was there for both
So-
nights.
And Connor, and what was amazing to me was around 9:30, I guess we sold out of ice cream. I mean, we had sold felt like thousands of containers of ice cream. So as we're cleaning up, I talked to some of our people and they said, we'll be here till about 1 or 2 this evening. And I said, what's going on? They said, well, since we're not open on Sunday and to help with the lawn and everything, the carnival will be moving off that night, Saturday night after the fireworks. And they said, then we have to go down to the courts and pick up all the debris from the fireworks, get everything all cleaned up. So I know by midnight on Saturday, I was done with all the activity we had here at the carnival. But for them to stay out, you know, to do that is just incredible. And for all these volunteers, and I don't have the exact numbers yet, but I know it was a successful carnival. And at one point on Saturday night, Denise and I looked out from our little trailer across from the pavilion where the other vendors were, and you couldn't move. I mean, it was just packed solid, and I've never seen it like that before. And everybody was happy and laughing. And I mean, people waited an hour in line for rides, but it was all right. They waited. You know, it was a good thing. So again, it could not have been done without the list of people who I just read and others who helped out. Chief Duffy, thank you for everything that you did. I know there were your officers were all over. We also heard at one point that there was no parking spaces left at the Merck parking lot, the overflow lot that we use over there. There was no spaces left. Denise said that there were cars parked along Sumneytown Pike with their flashers waiting for their kids to come, you know, to give them a ride home. So all in all, it was just a very successful event, and we're so appreciative of everybody and all the work that went into that. So that was all I had for this evening for that.
Excellent. Anybody else? All right, well then, thanks so much for coming this evening. Meeting adjourned.